This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good morning, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are we doing today on this Monday? It is May 12th, and you guys are checking out the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com. You're watching us on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. We appreciate you doing that on the BamaCentral Facebook page, right there on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither 6. You can find us there or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. We'd appreciate everybody who subscribed, rated, reviewed the show, downloaded it right there. We got a lot of downloads already this morning, so love that. Thank you so much. Let's have a lot of fun. A fun week. Oh, summer is here for real. Wednesday, we're going to do Know Thy Enemy again. Friday, it'll be Florida-centric on Wednesday. We're live at the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios. I've got Theo Fernandez back in action today on a Monday. We do have a voicemail from my friend Dax. We might be using this voicemail twice in a row, once for Theo, once for Mason tomorrow. Talking about Alabama's schedules, I believe. I just kind of glimpsed through it. I think it's going to be a preview on Alabama's schedule. We'll get Theo's reaction to that. You guys can use the voicemail line at 205-462-7340, extension 800. Dax is on the voicemail line talking schedules. You can talk whatever you like, bring to the table, especially over the summer. We'd appreciate that. Nobody is dethroning Dax as king of the voicemail line. We appreciate him holding that title above everyone else. No one can get that. We would challenge anyone to take that from him. I don't think you can. What else we're going to do today is talk Alabama baseball and Alabama softball. The Crimson Tide softball team is once again hosting a regional with a familiar face. Already played Virginia Tech a couple of times this season, so looks like a good chance for the Crimson Tide to get out of the regional and get to what will be a very, very challenging super regional if things break the right way, if things break what's expected. They're paired up with Oklahoma, so we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. We'll talk about Alabama's performance against Georgia in baseball over the weekend. Goodness gracious, how wet was it in Tuscaloosa this week? Oh, my gosh. I mean, driving in today, Theo, still nasty, still wet. So because it's wet, you want to make sure that you're properly insured with your vehicle. Oh, man, especially with the crazy drivers out there. Call Derek Daniel, State Farm Insurance, 205-758-3391 for all of your insurance needs, home, life, auto insurance needs, especially with the wet roads and the crazy drivers. Call 205-758-3391 for all of your insurance needs. We're also proudly sponsored by Warren Tire and Auto, and with the wet roads, it makes me think you guys need to make sure that your tires are in good shape and your brakes are in good shape. So Warren Tire and Auto's got two great locations to serve you. You can do tires, brakes, and alignment on 15th Street at 205-759-5505. And if you got other automotive needs, oil change, front-end work, I know I've got an AC issue I got to get fixed, so I'm going to see them on University Boulevard. You can call them at 205-758-2739.
Joe, I thought me and Will were going to possibly drown on the drive back from Troy. I mean, it was the craziest rain I'd ever been through. So I think wet is the perfect way to describe this last week in Tuscaloosa, because we were going about 45 on, the highway back towards Birmingham for probably a good hour. Like, there was about 7 feet of visibility. It was insane.
That's awful. That is absurd. That's my worst. Like, I don't mind driving in bad weather. That's fine. But like when it's the driving rain that you cannot even see forward, I've got my windshield wipers on level 10 or 3, I guess is the highest switch up and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, well, I guess I'm going 2 miles an hour, and I hope the whole buddy behind me can see my see my emergencies.
And we're at about 12:30 in the morning by this point too, because that is
y'all drove down there and then no, you're talking back.
Yeah,
midnight.
That's the way back.
Late night.
Sure. It was a late one. It was a fun day, but that was a lot of water.
Oh, my friend Julian Lee commenting on the Facebook side. Hello, Julian. Good morning to you as well. Good morning, Joe Gaither. Who's your sidekick? Theo Fernandez. Julian's a longtime listener, so tell Julian hello. She is a P1, which means she is top listener.
Oh, wow. That's Great to hear.
She might have missed you on a couple of Mondays before. That's okay. Introduce yourself to everybody who's missed the previous Mondays.
Well, I'm Theo Fernandez. You can follow me on X at Theo Fernandez _. Try to post as much as I can on there, get active, and I'm a new intern over at BamaCentral as of the last couple months. So you'll be seeing me here on Gaither every Monday.
Okay.
Been here, and it's a great time every week.
Most weeks, it's a great. I mean, when you're here, it is a good time. It is a good time. Why don't we start with baseball, because that's like the actual action on the. I want to do baseball. I have to address. I'm sorry, like you guys don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this either. I have to address. We got it wrong on Friday with the Michael Davis trial, capital murder case. I mean, I don't feel like my opinions were wrong, but ultimately the jury decided that Michael Davis was guilty, and so I do want to address that a little bit. But let's start with baseball. That's fun. The baseball boys got it done in disgusting fashion with the rain, losing badly on Friday. Barely playing the second game on Friday, then not playing hardly at all. So it was just a mess. And you were there at the Joe pretty much the whole weekend, and then covering it on Sunday. What do you think? What's some of your takeaways from the baseball weekend? What Will Miller said before was that, this has put Bama back into hosting potential. Talk about the weekend, beating Georgia 2 games out of 3. It's all what was it? 9-3 and 5-4 in the second 2 games.
So look, that first game starts and we're feeling good. We're up 3-1 entering the 5th. This is Friday afternoon, and there is no analogy, metaphor, anything that I can use
on them
to describe just how horribly it went. We lost this game 19-3. They scored 8 runs in the 5th. They added 3 in the 6th, and then they added another 7 in the 7th. And that's when they were just playing for pure fun. It was devastating. And Matthew Heiberger, a guy who's had a lot of good outings, who's been one of the more trustworthy arms, just simply wasn't firing on any cylinders, which is unfortunate. Even Vaughn addressed it. That's a kind of, you have a rough performance, but the team bounced back. Game 2 starts. What does Georgia do? They go out, they put up 2 runs right in the top of the first, and I'm sitting next to Nick Elliott in that press box, and we look at each other knowing, this might be a long one too. Now, it wasn't a long one because the rain decided to intervene, but it also wasn't a long one because our offense decided to intervene and really just stepped up in a huge way. We were up 6-2 by the time they had to call it due to rain in the 5th, but
talk me through that, because I'm out of town a little bit, and
Okay.
and I see they're going into rain delay, and then I don't see you guys' next update until about 1 a.m. How long were y'all in the stadium?
A long time. We're sitting there. First of all, masterful stuff from Riley Quick. He gives up those 2 runs in the 5th, and then just in the first rather, and then lights out the rest of the way. He had obviously the game got called with 1 out in the 5th, and then he did not re-enter on Sunday. But yeah, so it's drizzling the whole time. The whole time we kind of have a feeling that this game probably isn't going to finish today. But then it just starts pouring with 1 out in the 5th, and it becomes very clear that because they tried to at least get through the frame, because then you can call the game.
Sure,
but that just clearly wasn't going to happen. So they call it. And we're looking at the forecast, and it's clear to all of us that, this game is not happening. And it's clear to us that, this game's not happening Saturday either. But obviously they, due process. They're trying to do whatever they can to get the game out of the way. Right Field Rangers tweeted something like, we have a 10:45 start time, which we're all laughing about down in the box. We had Brennan Norton and a bunch of Justin LeBron and the players all messing around like on the SEC network feed, just kind of trolling everyone. So we tried to entertain ourselves in any way in the press box, but we all knew that game was going to be called. We just weren't prepared for it to take so long for it to be called.
Yeah, what in the world? Why is it? Were they just holding out hope?
They were holding out hope, but every single forecast we could find said at least 2 hours of rain. So we all had a pretty good feeling it was going to be called. So they call that game. They say, we're continuing Saturday. Everyone knew it wasn't going to happen. So they made had a bright and early start time, 10 a.m., and we really just we picked up where we left off. I mean, Georgia got one back in the 7th just on a sack fly, but then Richie Bonamolo Jr., Bronx native, got to support a fellow New Yorker here, and he just uncorks a 3-run blast, puts that game out of reach. And then we go right into game 3 minutes later, and it's just a fast start for us. I mean, Cade Snell homered, Jason Torres homered, and Georgia got a couple runs back late, but Carson Osmer got the save in both of the games.
He's got a school record, right?
He does.
Tell me about it.
So, yeah, 15 saves, and really, he's just been a guy we can trust all year.
Now, pause real quick. He sets the school record in this series, right?
Yes.
What do you think is going on in the other bullpen inside the mind of Alden Davis? Are you you're a little young? It's okay. So you may not. Are you?
No,
you get the education this weekend.
Yes.
What do you think Alden Davis is thinking as my replacement, more or less? I mean, it's not a direct replacement, but very, very close. I mean, Davis loses in Osmer. Osmer's like the second. I think there's one closer in between, but essentially he's your next closer up. And you can go to Georgia and try to be a starting pitcher. We'll just keep our next closer. We'll set a school record.
Yeah, I mean, so I remember because I have very little knowledge about the 2022 team or the 23 team rather. And then I just remember getting in last year and everyone's telling me about how incredible Alton Davis is going to be. And obviously last year was an interesting one for him. And, you know, the whole time up in the press box, we're all just praying that Georgia decides to put him in the game.
Yeah, you want to see it. We want
to see it. Especially, you know, the joke was, and that maybe he blows the lead in the first game for them. But obviously that wasn't going to happen. But, yeah, no, I don't know what. You know, the grass is not greener. The grass isn't always greener, and it rarely ever is, you know, in that portal. So I have to imagine that Alton Davis is regretting his decision. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, you're on a very good team. But, yeah, your ERA is also like 8-something right now. So it has just not been the season that he's wanted at all.
Oh, well, tough for him. Carson Osmer, though, back to him.
Very, very. You know, on a team that needs bullpen arms that they can trust, Carson Osmer is such a breath of fresh air. And
yes,
it's awesome. You know, he's a guy where, we roll him out and, you know, you don't have to sweat it out as much as you would with some of the other guys. I'd say Matty Hayberger is one of them too, you know, despite the struggle on Friday. But
really nice for Osmer to bounce back from what happened Sunday against Vanderbilt. Alabama's up pretty big. Osmer comes in to close out the last. Was it a 2-inning save? I think it was.
Yeah, because we put him in the 8th.
Yeah, and so he comes in and cleans up the 8th inning. No problem. Well, no, they scored once or twice in the 8th, and then they scored. They walked it off in the 9th.
Mind you, he was a pitch away from closing that game out.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's almost. I mean, the margin for error is razor thin. But point being, great to bounce back from your first blown save of the year to get 2 over the weekend, right?
I'm sorry?
No, he only got the 1 save over the weekend.
Osmer?
No.
He got both.
He got
both saves in the.
Okay, so he was in the game. He was out there twice on Sunday.
He was.
All right, great. I mean, stud.
Absolutely. And
so what does this leave us with, Theo? You got one more series left, and then we're going to Hoover. The Florida Gators up and down this year. Will Miller says Alabama is now in good position to host. You're not Will Miller, but what would you say?
So coming in, the sentiment was kind of, okay, we have to go. If we go 4-2 over the next 6 games, we will just about be set. If we go 3-3, we'll be in solid shape. I think that's discounting us a little bit because, you know, a series win over
top 10 Georgia.
Team. Right. This is the number 6 team in the country. Well, actually, I had the poll pulled up a second ago. I forget exactly what they dropped to, but still, incredible.
They were 6. They were at 6 but entering the weekend.
Yeah. Which we're right at 18 right now. That's what the new poll has us at. So clearly just barely on the outside looking in.
D1 baseball?
D1 baseball, yeah. Florida is in the poll right now at 22. And I just, we win the series. I see no way that we don't host, quite frankly.
Yeah, Alabama is up to 18, as you said. Georgia has dropped from 6 to 10 in the new rankings.
And just look at all the marquee wins that this Alabama team has. The schedule's unreal. I mean, and this series win is just a feather in that cap. And now Gainesville is always going to be a tough environment, as most SEC schools are. That's not a new thing for us. I mean, we nearly won a series in Baton Rouge a few weeks ago. So I really think that if we win this series, it's going to be insanely hard, regardless of what happens in Hoover, unless we have a Texas A&M type weekend, to keep us out of hosting a regional. With that being said, I mean, there's definitely a possibility of us losing this series. It's something where we can't be looking past it at all. We can't, discount Florida at all. But that's also something that a Rob Vaughn team would never do. So, very talented squad in this Gators team. Obviously, you don't have the star power you did last year, but they are a threat and a team that
The old Alabama
should put up a fight, but we should beat.
Is the old Alabama infielder still playing shortstop or third? Coleman Shelton, Florida baseball. Yeah, Colby Shelton.
Shelton.
Is he still with them?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Now.
I think he's out.
I'm pretty sure he.
All right, rolled.
No.
Wrist injury. Colby Shelton. So he's with them at least, but it looks like he's hurt.
We'll see. But yeah, now Florida's good. The most fun story from the weekend in college baseball, though, is Texas A&M. I'm number one team in the country to start the season. And for those who don't know, A&M has had, literally think FSU football this year. They haven't quite been that catastrophic, but that's a very close comparison. And they came in to a home series against a Missouri Tigers team that was 0-24 in SEC play. 0-24. And you know how that series went? They got swept. Missouri turns in to the best team in the country for a week. A&M goes down, and they are likely going to be the first one seed, or the first, preseason number one overall team to miss the tournament, which is absurd.
Well, I know that Alabama got them in a series. I know Vanderbilt got them in a series. The two teams that I'm kind of paying attention to for work. What's the deal? Is it just all the fallout from last year's? We lost our coach to Texas. Blah blah blah. Hooey and what's the deal? Is it just new coach isn't the right guy? What do you think is the diagnosis in College Station?
Now, admittedly, I've only watched him play 4 times, which was the 3 times we played him, and then the first Mizzou game from this weekend. But I've heard that, this new coach has not been doing the job, and they have had some injury problems, but it's just so baffling to see. And if you remember the cover of the preseason D1 baseball magazine, it got posted on Freezing Cold Takes last night after the sweep went final. So I'm actually pulling it up right now because I want to get this right because it's incredible. Yeah, so here's the cover. It says Golden Age with 4 of the A&M players standing around, and then caption, in college baseball's most talent-rich era, Texas A&M leads the pack. They certainly do not lead the pack. They actually are very close to the back of that pack.
Well, talent isn't everything. Do you think that they are that talented, or do you think it was an overestimate? Or do you think the analysts got it wrong, or do you think they are that talented and the new coaching staff just didn't hit the right buttons?
Well, they clearly aren't that talented, because if you're that talented, you can overcome. If you're that talented, you're not 14th in the SEC right now.
10-17 in league play. Mississippi State fired their coach. They're one ahead of them.
And with that being said, though, they shouldn't be that far back. They still, at the end of the day, have the players and the future MLB talent to, there should not be a question in any way, shape, or form that these guys should be clear lock for the tournament right now. The fact that the season has gone this way is almost entirely on the coaching staff.
It has to be, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, there's no one else you can blame.
All right, let's transition a little bit, unless you have more baseball talk, because the only other baseball stuff I've got is how cool it would be to host again. It was so much fun.
Yeah. No, I would love to see that, because if I'm not mistaken, before 2023, like the last time was in the 90s, right?
I think it was like 04, 05, something.
Okay.
It was definitely a huge gap. I remember writing a double. I think it was a decade worth of a gap between hosting.
Back when I just finished my sophomore year here at Bama, so 2 years ago, I was trying to schedule my Bama bound, like to come down and visit the school for when we had the regional. The dates, unfortunately, didn't line up, but I wanted to go to those games, and I heard they were a ton of fun, and I'm excited, knock on wood, to get to cover softball at the regional this week, baseball in Hoover a week later, and then a baseball regional. That's the dream right there, and hope the Rob Vaughn and the boys can make that happen.
Yeah, so they were okay. It was
06?
Right, there you go. Atlanta regional champions.
Tuscaloosa
regional right there. 06, Jim Wells. So yeah, it was basically like 06 to 23 was the huge gap of hosting. And then Alabama was in Tallahassee last year, right? And got destroyed.
Last year was a travesty.
Good.
We lose to FSU.
Stetson, right? Wasn't it the other small school?
That's the season-ending loss. Was 4-0 to Stetson.
Terrible. Not good.
We actually, I don't even think we played FSU, because I think we lost to UCF in the first game.
Yep.
And then we had to battle our way back, and Stetson just that one for us. I was in LA, working for Fox Sports, covering that game remotely, and that 4-0 loss is one of the most pitiful.
It was annoying. It was just like, we all do anything in this game.
Yeah. And this year's team doesn't have that level of inconsistency that last year's did. And that's why we're a clear step ahead. That's why I think, we haven't lost to a Stetson level team all year. We went undefeated in midweek. So I think this is markedly better team than last year.
All right, let's flip gears just a little bit, staying in the diamond, but Alabama softball. We talked to Katie on Thursday after Alabama had lost in the SEC championship or SEC tournament. First, before we get to this, you want to tackle what the SEC did on Saturday with softball? What is this?
That I'm baffled.
Greg Sankey, one champion here.
Yeah.
What ends up happening if you're not paying attention? Bad weather everywhere across the Southeast. You had to have seen that. You had to experience that wherever you were. But in Athens, Georgia, where the SEC championship or SEC tournament was, you had Texas A&M and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Make it to the championship. Make it to the championship game on Saturday. Bad weather, and instead of, hey, we'll play this on Sunday, or hey, we'll play this 5 hours from now, or hey, we'll play this one game over the course of 15 hours because of the bad weather. We'll just get an inning in here and inning in there. I don't know. The meathead in me has a huge problem with what they did, but the objective, it's not that big of a deal, Joe. It makes me think that they made the right decision. What they ended up doing is saying, hey, guys, instead of battling the weather, no championship game, co-champions, everybody goes home, gets ready for the NCAA selection show on Sunday. I don't know. I was left feeling not good about that.
Yeah, I don't either. It's un-American in my eyes. Come on. You can't be saying, it just means more, but it doesn't mean enough to play the conference championship.
That part.
Right? Come on, Sankey. But at the end of the day, I understand it from the perspective of the teams. When you're 1-2, why play the game and risk but the thing is, I don't even really see any way that the loser would drop.
It wasn't. I don't think it's about dropping. I think it was about getting everybody home in time for Selection Sunday and realizing that the weather was going to keep you there and just. I think it was just hassle, and I think it was just this makes the most sense logistically speaking.
But you don't have another game to play until Thursday or Friday, so it's not like a rest thing. It doesn't sit right with me, honestly. It's. Especially imagine if you traveled to Athens to go watch the SEC softball tournament, And you think you're going to get...
if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I'm a little bit unhappy for the simple fact that we wanted to come into this league and show you that we were big and bad Oklahoma. You know, all this bleep that SEC's been talking for 5 years said, wait till you come to the SEC. If I'm an Oklahoma fan, I'm mad because, we will wait till we come to the SEC. We'll just show you. We'll get all the way to the championship game and win it. Oh, now we're co-champions, so now we can't you should feel just as good, but fans, they're going to be like, well, it's not the same. It's not the same.
And all these athletes are competitive to no end. So I'd want it, I'd want all the hard. And now the top 4 teams in the bracket are SEC teams, which is insane. And Oklahoma and A&M were the clear consensus top 2 teams either way. So, it really matters very little. But it also just, doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel very SEC-like to me. I'd expect this out of the Big Ten.
Exactly. Right. It just means more. Does it? If it just means more, we'll play this dang game at midnight.
Right. Yeah. We're grasping at straws here at the end of the day. But I fully agree with what you're saying there, Joe.
All right, let's move to the actual Alabama stuff. Alabama loses. You beat Auburn and lost to
South
Carolina. Thank you very much. And so you're out in 2 days. But Selection Sunday comes, great, and you've got postseason softball in Tuscaloosa this weekend. Getting ready for that. Alabama has made the NCAA tournament once again, and has not only made the NCAA tournament, is hosting a regional once again. And Alabama's regional is going to be Jackson State, Belmont, and Virginia Tech. You got a decent little run. Let me pull up our schedule here from the early in the year, because you played Virginia Tech twice middle of the year.
Yeah, we split those 2 games. We lost the first, and then we won the second 9-2. So after losing a very competitive game, or was it 9-1?
9-1. Lost 2-1 to open the Friday weekend, and then beat them 9-1 in 5 innings to close the Sunday weekend.
And let me say, that was at a time where we were struggling to start the year.
I agree.
We had a lot of rough performances. And I remember I was filming all those games for Crimson Tide Productions, and I watched that 2-1 loss, and it's frustrating. And then, we beat, I think it was Drake twice in the middle, because I think they were the other team in town.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Drake.
Drake in Southern Utah.
And then we go out and we just, embarrass Virginia Tech. And that really set the tone for what was it was an imperfect season. Like, there were a lot of flaws, faults throughout, but that really just put us moving in the right direction. And also, if we don't win that game, this might be the Blacksburg regional right now.
Very true. I think you're on the line right there at the 15th seed. And I agree with your assessment. That weekend, I think, did give a lot of encouragement, end up giving you a lot of confidence going into the SEC season, a lot of confidence that you are still kind of looking for. And I agree with you. It was an imperfect season, but the girls did enough. Their RPI was good enough. You play in the SEC. You've listened to Katie Wyndham the last 3, 4, 5 weeks talk about how competitive the league is, and just, in comparison to other SEC schools, you may not be thrilled with Alabama's results. But in comparison to other college softball programs, Alabama's still playing really high-level softball. So you got the number 15 seed. You're hosting a regional, and it's, you guys are all familiar with the way it works. It's a 2-game elimination set over the weekend, and you're just going to have to survive. You got Virginia Tech and Belmont first on Friday. Alabama's taking on Jackson State on Friday, the second game. You'll have the 2 winners play, the 2 losers play on Saturday, that sort of thing. You'll end up working your way till Sunday. Alabama's, I think, in a really good position to get themselves to Sunday and get themselves to a super regional. That's when things become a little more challenging for the Crimson Tide. You're matched up with, as Theo outlined, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's regional is who you're matched up with. Cal, Omaha, Boston, and Oklahoma are all going to Norman to take on the Sooners.
Why are they making Boston go all the way to Norman, Oklahoma? That one is...
Well, I mean, I think that when you get to some seeding issues, Like, okay, all of the you outlined it. The top 16 seeds. How many are SEC? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of the 16. 10 of the 16.
Yeah.
So there's only limited
Really.
places to like send Boston. Where am I going to send you up in the Northeast? Any of these Northeast? No.
There's Marist up there too.
Texas Tech, Arizona. We're not sending them all the way out to Lubbock or Arizona. We're going to send. I mean, I guess you could have sent them to East Coast teams like Duke and Clemson regional. But there's only limited places where you can send some of these schools, send some of these teams.
Yeah, no, that kind of just hit for me because Marist is about 40 minutes from me in New York, and they're going all the way down to College Station. So, because I was always under the impression that you're not supposed to get sent more than 400 miles away. But yeah, I guess there really is no.
I don't know anything about that rule.
There really is no. I forget who I heard it from. Might not even be a real thing. But yeah, I guess there's just no real.
It may be. I've just never heard that distinction before. I think that they draw the top 16 seeds and then they draw the rest of them and try to, pair them and spread them as equally and as evenly as they can. But when you have, an uneven region, the Southeast, that's dominating a lot of things, well, you're going to get a lot of teams sent down south.
Yeah. By the way, quick note on just how special this Alabama program is. 20th consecutive year that we're hosting a regional. Just unreal.
Oh, yeah, but everybody wants a bye, Patrick Murphy.
Wait,
losing their minds.
Are people saying that?
The last 4 years, you've had a section, not anyone led by Joe Gaither, I'll tell you that, but a group of unsatisfied Alabama fan. Patrick Murphy's not doing enough. Oh, they talk about, what was it, 2010? Oh, it's a fluke to win his one title.
12.
Oh, right. Drive me crazy. It's the Mark Richt conversation. Like, I would much rather have Patrick Murphy. I would so much rather have Patrick Murphy leading this program than mystery coach X coming in to replace him and say, well, maybe it's 1% better, but there's a high likelihood that it's a lot worse.
Yeah,
I think the fan base that has taken that track over the last 4 years has lost their minds.
I didn't even know this section of Alabama fans existed. I honestly just thought Murphy was the universally loved coach.
But, he is by people with brains.
Yeah, right. I don't see how you could. Every single interaction I have, except after our loss to Mississippi
he doesn't
State,
like to lose, but that's okay.
I'd be a little more worried if my coach did like to lose.
Right.
Like I remember we get out of that game, a very disappointing loss to Mississippi State, and he goes, he's talking. I think it was just me and Anna Snyder were the two reporters covering that one, and he talks for about 20 seconds. He tells us in advance it's gonna be quick, and then he shakes our hands and it's like, okay, that's it. And we didn't even ask a question. It was just his statement, and it was tough, working a story around that. But also,
he does not like to lose, and I think that's okay.
I wouldn't want my coach to be any less competitive than that.
But on the front side, he lets you know, hey guys, sorry, I'm not being mean to you, Theo, particularly. Right. I'm just angry about what's happened. I think that the small section of the fan base that has taken that lane over the last 3 to 4 years has lost their minds.
Oh, and let me tell you, after a big win, those are the most fun press conferences in the
world.
He's
great.
It's awesome.
He's like, how many questions do you have?
Yeah. Now, I'd say outside of Rob Vaughn, he is my favorite person in Alabama athletics because Rob Vaughn is incredible. Yeah. Rob Vaughn is so fun. It just feels like you're talking to a regular guy sometimes.
Well, they're all regular people, Theo.
Oh, they are.
I'm just teasing you. So that's the Diamond Sports. Wow, that carried us a long way, Theo. That's great.
One final note. We were one of 3 teams this year to beat Oklahoma in a series. It was us, it was Tennessee, and it was Florida a week ago. So Oklahoma fans, it comes out, and you see them, in the comments on X and stuff, like, not happy. It's something where, we've gone out, we've shown we can beat you guys. Audrey Vandegrift had that walk-off homer in the 8th inning to take them down. Mind you, that was in Tuscaloosa. Norman is a long way from there. With that being said, I mean, you got to be feeling good about the draw for Alabama. this is about as good as it could go. And I'd rather, play a team where they're a little scared of you. You've shown you can beat them versus, going into College Station. I'm very happy with. I think this worked out just about as perfectly as it could have for Alabama.
Okay, I was a little concerned with it, but I'll take your optimism. I'll take your optimism and adopt it. Let's move. I got a couple more topics here on this Monday, but first, I want to tell you about Warren Tire and Auto.
So my name is Russ Warren, and I'm one of the owners here at Warren Tire. We started in 1961. My granddad on University Boulevard, so we've been kind of a staple here in the Tuscaloosa and the University of Alabama community since then. And so thankful to be in the third generation. And we have 2 locations now in Tuscaloosa. We're right here at the 15th Street location right now, where we just do tires, brakes, and alignments mostly here. Our university location does oil changes, engine work, air conditioning work, front end work, the whole 9 yards. And so any of our 2 locations, you can come check us out.
We appreciate Warren Tire and Auto for sponsoring the program. You guys can jump on and sponsor the Joe Gaither Show. Just find me in the DMs. We'd love to add you to the lineup. Theo, what about heading to the voicemail line? I know Dax called. He said he felt bad about not calling for you last week, and so he said, "I'm gonna make it up to Theo and have a voicemail for Theo talking about Alabama football schedule." So let's go to the voicemail line. You guys can call 205-462-7340 extension 800, and we will play your voicemail and react to it.
It is Dax, back again on the voicemail line. I want to start by saying I'm sorry, Theo. I didn't realize that Joe was going to pull a Hugh Freeze and throw me under the bus. Telling you that, what I said. But I got to spread out the voicemails. I can't have just you or just Mason responding to them. I got to have both of y'all. All right, now on to the Dax's way too early schedule prediction. Last year's team, all the fans were saying it was undisciplined. The board needs to discipline these boys. I'm not saying they're wrong. Like, the team was a little undisciplined. Like, they didn't get up when they needed to. But DeBoer literally had to coach on pendulum. Like, he couldn't pull any Saban tactics, or half the team would have went the dang transfer portal. There's people who realize that. This team, however, we're getting hardball. I think we're getting hardball DeBoer. So we start out with Florida State.
All right, I'm going to pause him right there. Because I think that's a great concept, Theo. Last year, DeBoer was not disciplined enough. This year is hardball DeBoer.
I'd like to believe in that take. Now,
I believe it. Go ahead.
I just find it a little hard to believe that, a coach is gonna. It seems kind of inauthentic for a coach to hold himself back, And I also, just with everything I know about Kalen DeBoer and his philosophies and the way he coaches and the way he talks to players and media and all that, like, I find it hard to believe that he would go out of his way to go easy on guys, I don't know. I don't think I can fully get behind that take there, but I definitely see where it's coming from. I don't think that's something that Kalen DeBoer would do. I don't think he's going to act out of fear of losing players or anything.
Not anymore. I think that last year I don't think he acted out of fear. I wouldn't say fear is the right motivation. I would say precaution. And maybe that's the same thing. Maybe it's the same thing, and my semantics are just making it sound like it's different. But I think that I think Dax is dead on about, who am I going to press? How hard am I going to press? How do I know them well? And you know the old Coach Saban line: the players don't care how much you know until they know that how much you care. I think last year was all about DeBoer really connecting with the guys and letting them know, I do care about you. Now that they know that I care about you, we're going to turn the dial up 1 or 2 ticks.
I would like to believe in that, but I just, it just doesn't, from a player's standpoint, wouldn't you be a little turned off almost by a coach who's not, fully going, especially guys who are used to Saban, right?
Yes,
I don't know.
I think that I'm going to put myself in my own brain, and I know that I was an immature high schooler when I had a coaching change between my junior and senior year. I was too immature to accept the coach for who he was. He was a good coach. He was a good man, and he cared about us. But I thought, you don't know me, buddy. You don't know me, buddy. You don't know what I can do, what I can't do, what I've shown already and haven't shown already. And granted, that was Joe high school immaturity. These Alabama athletes are not in high school and more mature than Joe was. I want to make that very clear. But that bias is in my head, or that perspective is in my head, that I think that DeBoer comes in, it's like, man, I didn't sign up for you. I signed up for play for Coach Saban. This Alabama A is only a means to the NFL. And can you still get me there? Are you still there? I don't know. Like, yeah, I saw what you did with Washington last year. I think there's gonna be a little element of, is this, of course, we all love Greg Byrne and trust his judgment, but did Greg Byrne bring it? I think there's a little bit of, you've got to mold it together. Like, yeah, the pieces look like they're going to foot together, but it takes some time to actually click the piece together. Oh, that puzzle looks like a real picture again. And maybe it's immature. Maybe it's my own immaturity that I'm coming from, but I do think that there's a little bit of element that DeBoer, I'm going to be cautious about how hard I press until these guys know that I'm really their guy.
Well, that's an optimistic take. It's one I'd like to believe in it. You know, it's a fun thing to believe. So I'll take it.
Let's keep going. Dax keeps going.
If they're not better than they were last year, then there's zero hope for Mike Norvell, and I'm praying for that man. I think we're going to win 42-13.
Over Florida State.
We got Louisiana Monroe, the PTSD game. We better get up for that one. We better get up for this one. I think we're going to win 60-10.
Okay, the problem is he's right. It is the PTSD game. But how old were these young men in 2007?
I was 2 years old, so most of them were just about the same.
So they don't know. You're going to have to put that on the VHS tapes in the Malmora. In the Mount Moore facility to let them know that ULM one time beat Alabama. But I'm with him. I think that it's going to be a bloodbath.
Who's the so if I'm 05, that would be like after finishing sophomore year, and a fifth year senior would be 3 years older. That's 2002. The oldest player on this Alabama team was born at best in late 2001, for context.
So they don't know anything about losing to ULM unless their daddies told them.
Yeah, nobody has a firsthand memory of Alabama losing to ULM.
Oh gosh, Dax, that's trouble, because Dax is right. The Alabama fan base is going to turn that into a game that bigger than it should be. They beat us in 2007 under an old coach when all the players are now fathers. Like,
you know, right? And another fun thing to remember about the teams now, that because I was talking to one of I was just out talking to a guy in Troy months ago, rather, not when I was there this weekend. And one of the things that I don't think he'd fully grasped was that everyone on the team right now, their only memories of Alabama football are Saban era. Nobody remembers Alabama football being anything other than, Alabama football.
Roll Tide.
We're going to do it. Then we got Wisconsin. This time it's at home, and we drubbed them in their house last year, but I think they're going to be a little better. I think we're going to win 45-17. Then we got the first toughie of the schedule. We got big old Georgia. We get to visit old Athens. I'm nervous for this one. As we know, DeBoer plays very well up to the competition. However, he also plays down to it. I actually think we're going to take the dub a little easier in Athens than we did last year. I think we're going to win 21-10. It's going to be a low scoring one.
21-10 for the Georgia game. Alabama wins. What do you think, Theo? What do you think?
Well, just first, real quick on the first three games,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's very optimistic in our offense, just clicking that well right away. That's
Is it optimistic in our offense, or is it confidence in the defense? Because the defense, if the defense picks up right where we left off last year with the talent that they did not lose to the NFL, I mean, you should be seeing some zeros on the score. You should be seeing some tens or less. You should be seeing 10 or under, in my opinion. Especially, I mean, this first game against Florida State, if you're giving up more than 17, I'm going to be a little bit perturbed.
I would agree.
You really should not be giving up more than 14, 13 or fewer against ULM. Wisconsin's going to come into Tuscaloosa with a little more firepower than ULM, but still, I'm thinking 20 or fewer, 17 or fewer.
Yeah, but when that's 150 points he's got to score in over 3 games. And don't get me wrong, I would love that. I think Florida State's defense puts up more of a fight than we're
What's
expecting.
21 by 3? That's 63.
What was that?
21, 21, 21. If you hit 3 touchdowns the first 3 weeks, that's 62 points. 63 points.
No, he had a scoring 40 on FSU.
Oh, well, yeah, he did.
Yeah, scoring 60 on ULM.
I'm saying the requirement is not as high as he's made it out. The requirement of winning, of outscoring what the defense allows, is not that high.
I just don't see us going out. And, I don't think we're going full greatest show on turf the first 3 weeks. But yeah, there should be no real challenge to get to 3-0 and
21-10 in Athens.
That's not
so. Who is it? It's going to be Gunnar Stockton. We're going to have to do when we do our know thy enemy. Try to look up the Georgia stuff. Really, all we've done is Texas last Wednesday.
Now, look, knowing the way that we have dominated.
Oh, they got that Zachariah Branch fella. They got that Zachariah Branch fella from USC.
They do, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. 21-10 feels too low.
It feels too low, but I do think we're the better team. I think, you look at a Georgia team that we beat last year, and you look at the fact that we improved, I think, a lot. I think I'm gonna go win here. A low win in a low scoring game isn't the most far fetched thing. I don't think.
Well, none of this is far-fetched. Let's keep going with Dax. He has us 4-0 now after the Georgia game, coming back home to take on Vanderbilt.
Good old Vanderbilt. Shouldn't even have to say anything. Bama, 90-0. And we got Missouri. A lot of people think this is the trap game of the schedule. I think hopefully we got some discipline this time. DeBoer, don't do it to us. I think we're gonna catch that W, 23-14. Then we got Tennessee. Now they are going to be. I think their offense will be more efficient than it was last year with Joey at quarterback. I think Nico has a higher ceiling, but his brain and his dad might get in the way of his ceiling, of his growth. I don't know. But anyways, about Tennessee. So we actually have a QB this year who I believe will be able to get it to the wide receiver. We're going to win 24-17.
I don't care what the number is as long as you beat Tennessee.
I actually think that might be our first loss of the year.
Tennessee at home.
I don't want to say it. No one wants to say it.
You may as well kill me now, Theo.
Nah, it would suck, but I mean, I could see it. I think that people are really underestimating how good Aguilar could be.
You've been on his train since the trade. Tell us. I mean, why?
I'm high on him. I was impressed by him 2 years ago at App State, and I kind of just throw whatever happened at that, 75% empty stadium over at UCLA, kind of out the window, because that was never going to go well. I mean, you are the least supported program in the Big Ten, taking a jump from a Pac-12 conference that you already struggled in to, traveling across the country every other week to go play, in some cold weather environment. So I'm not super concerned by any struggles he had last year. I really think that Tennessee could be a top 5 team next year. I think that I could see a lot of stuff coming together for the Vols.
Man, we're going to need to have you on our know thy enemy Tennessee segment if you are that high on them to tell us why. I know you lost some on defense. You got the nice cornerback Jamon McCoy back. He's gonna be nice, but you lost James Pierce. Man, these are just all off the top of my head. You lose a guy like Dylan Sampson. I mean, Dylan Sampson was a man running the football last year, and so. Yeah, I'm gonna have you lost Brew McCoy, obviously Squirrel White to medical retirement. We're gonna have to have you on if you're this high on Tennessee for the Know Thy Enemy Tennessee. This week is Florida, Wednesday, Florida. Mason and I will talk about the Florida Gators. Whew. That would hurt my heart really bad if Tennessee comes in to Tuscaloosa and wins. Let's keep going with Dax. Dax has us undefeated so far as we are working our way through. Dax is way too early. Schedule prediction.
Yeah, South Carolina. Good old South Kakalaki. It's going to be a tough one. Going to South Carolina, it is going to be a really tough one. I think Sellers is going to be better than he was last year. I think this will be the first L. It's going to be. I think we're going to lose 21-17. And then we got LSU. We all know how it's going to go. We're going to catch the W, 38-10. Oklahoma, biggest revenge game of this year. We are going to drub them in Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saban Field. It's going to be Oklahoma blood all over that field. It's going to be a W, 52-17. Calling it. And we got Eastern.
Okay, I saw that look on your face. You want to go right there? I saw that look on your face. 52. Now, I'm with you. I think Dax is reading the schedule very, very well. I am concerned about the Missouri road trip that he gave Alabama a win. But that South Carolina road trip as well looks like an inevitable loss.
Well, all right. So I don't agree with that one. I think I'm lower on South Carolina than a lot of people. You know, I don't want to say it, but
I'm not really a big fan of Shane Beamer.
I'm not either. And I think that last season feels a little fluky to me. I think it really does. And I would not be surprised in any way, shape, or form if by week 6, South Carolina is out of the top 25.
Right. But we've seen that before, Theo. But what has Shane done the last couple of years where he starts slow, ends fast? And right here, this Alabama game, late October, is the perfect time for the South Carolina. Because I'm with you. I'm reading the underwhelms to start with, and then starts getting some marquee wins down the stretch, and people always start buying South Carolina again. What's the marquee win that would start getting people to buy South Carolina again? Home upset over Alabama.
Everyone's rushing the field.
Oh, my gosh. The sandstorm's going crazy. You're coming. It's the week after your Tennessee game that has taken you to the brink, probably.
I still think Tennessee is the more likely loss than South Carolina. I mean, I don't think you can discount it. Now, LSU, you agree with that? Will you agree with what Dax said?
Big time. Just the way that rivalry goes, big time. I am not a Garrett Nussmeier stan. I think that Garrett Nussmeier is. I think Garrett Nussmeier has a good arm and is okay college quarterback, but I think that he is very trickable. I think that you can change coverages at the snap. I think that you can give him looks that end up not being the right looks. I'm sorry. I think he is you can game him because I think that he is very formulaic in, I see cover two. Cover two means throw this route. And once the picture changes, he's already throwing this route and then he's got. I think he's easy to snatch in some traps. So, yes, I do agree with him on the LSU take.
And I don't want to call him like a two-dimensional quarterback, but I don't think that third dimension is fully unlocked for Nussmeier, if that makes sense. Now, with that being said, I think, he could prove me wrong. LSU QBs, we've seen them take a lot of jumps during off seasons. We've seen a lot of guys elevate. Now, did you know that Oklahoma is Josh Pate's number 10 team in the country to start the season? I didn't know people were that high on the Sooners.
Again, I'm going to have to look at them when we do Know Thy Enemy because I'm not real sure what he would be going off of. They John Mateer, is that the quarterback that's going to be likely take the reins there? I know they got the 5-star defensive lineman back out of the transfer portal that they looked like they were going to lose. I haven't followed them well enough to know what they'll look like.
Did they get Jaden Ott, the Cal running back?
Jaden ought to go. HOTT ought to go. Yes, he did, right?
I'm pretty sure he went there.
Yeah.
And he's a big time player, I think, but I just don't see how this isn't. I think this is the biggest revenge game
here in Tuscaloosa. Yeah, I think you're loving the fact that all 3 losses that you had last year are all coming back to town. You get Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Oklahoma back in town.
I don't know anything
this is Eastern
about
Illinois.
Win 55-3.
Yeah.
Then we got good old Auburn. Joe, I know you don't believe in Auburn Jesus, but I'm here to tell you that he exists 100%. No team besides Auburn is that lucky year after year. Well, maybe not year after year. They kind of suck, but maybe Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a little lucky too. But Auburn Jesus 100% exists at Jordan-Hare Stadium, 100%. I think we're still going to get the W because Auburn's longest streak against us is 6 years in a row. We at least have to tie it with this one. I think we're going to get the W. 35-30. It is going to be close. So, yep, that's how I've got it. South Kakalaki is the only L of the season overall, 11-1. And we're going to make the playoffs with that for sure. So, let me know how y'all think about that one. Love y'all boys. Be safe. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. That's Dak. Love you too, man. Thank you for always being a part of the show and calling. I cannot overstate enough how much it means to me. A lot. But I want to take you to the Plains. Nick Saban always had trouble. Always had trouble. It didn't matter. I mean, Katie was on it on this weekend or on Thursday talking about it. Like Bryce Young, your best quarterback ever, Heisman Trophy winner, is down 10-3 to TJ Dadgum Finley on the Plains. That's how much Nick Saban had trouble. So this will be Kalen DeBoer's first trip down there. Team on paper better than Auburn. I mean, you still got to get there down to November. You still things will change, but right now on paper a lot better than Auburn. Will the Auburn voodoo, the Jordan-Hare magic, will it bite Kalen DeBoer?
I don't think it will. I again still am yet to see Auburn beat Alabama in my time as a diehard college football fan. I would love for that to stay the same. I also agree with Dax. Like, yeah, we have to get that streak to 6. I also like the fact that he agrees it's completely ridiculous for you to ignore the voodoo magic. I think that, I think that probably 90%
it has
of our
to be
audience
explainable.
agrees.
It's not quantifiable.
Some things can't be quantified.
Then it's not real. Period.
The kick 6 is replaying very really in my head.
Yeah,
right
the
now.
kick 6 is easily explained. Nick Saban took a risk because he didn't want to go to overtime, and what ended up happening? It's easy to explain. You had a bunch of overweight, unathletic kick, pass kick protection, field goal protectors. Sorry, who's the Mandel? Mandel is the holder, the punter holder who can't make the tackle. It's not Auburn voodoo. It's Gus Malzahn saying, "Man, this kick's really, really long. Why don't we put a joker back there in case it's short and it's 1 second? If he gets tackled, whatever." It's just calculation. It's just playing the situation here.
Auburn,
I guess.
Auburn, but I think DeBoer takes care of business down there.
I think he does as well. I think that the Auburn faithful are going to get really restless with Hugh Freeze this year, unless some things pick up from 7-5. He's been talking, recruiting. He's been playing though. We're still recruiting. We're still building the talent of the roster. Well, buddy, I think that this is the 3rd year for him. I think that you need to make sure that the talent of the roster is good enough to win you 8, 9, 10 games. But I don't know if you'll do that.
If you don't win 8 games, he enters fully on the hot seat next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it would take something truly catastrophic for him to not be the coach in 12 months. But you know how that fan base will get.
They'll get upset. They'll get restless. There'll be a big part of them that says we should fire him, and then there's going to be a part of them that's like we can't afford to fire him. So,
So Dax has us in the SEC championship game.
with that 11-1,
Almost
you better be.
certainly, right?
Yeah, I mean, unless his losses in South Carolina, unless his South Carolina record is really really good, or there are two undefeated teams, then yeah, you're going to Atlanta to take on Texas.
You think that's who it'll be? Yeah, you're high on Arch right now.
I'm high on that defense. I'm really high on the Texas defense. I think the Texas defense will, much like the Alabama defense, allow the first-year starter a good little runway into figuring out what he can and cannot do. Yeah, I'm very high on the Texas and Alabama defense. That's where I'm at. Okay, Theo, I got to do one more thing before we get out of here, man. I really don't want to, but Friday we talked about Michael Davis's trial, and I was pretty vocal on the fact that I think that he was going to get off on self-defense. We'll just acknowledge this. I was wrong. Straight off the bat. The jury came back in 1 hour and named Michael Davis guilty of capital murder. Now his attorney said that they will appeal today. That's obviously going to be a whole another deal. Reading some of Ryan Phillips' work from Tuscaloosa Patch, he talked to some of the jurors, and it sounds like some of the jurors had some pretty clear evidence that maybe I wasn't seeing. Talked about maybe the way that Michael Davis approached the Jeep and the way that, on video, and talked about kind of the happenings of the night. I am heartbroken just still because it is a very terrible situation for Jamia Harris, Jamia's son, for Jamia's family, and obviously for the young men that are in jail whose lives are who are changed. I don't want to say over. They're very much changed. So it's very, very sad. But I want to acknowledge that I was wrong, and I want to acknowledge that the courts did find Michael Davis guilty. I do think it's more complicated than that. I think that Cedric Johnson and some of the other parties bear some responsibility here. But that's just the way the justice system works. I think that sometimes you're not going to get everything that you want. And sometimes I'm just wrong. I might have missed it. So I want to own the fact that I missed it, or at least the jury saw it differently, and they had more information than I did. They were in the room. They heard all the testimonies. I was reading reports from good reporters, quality reporters, and drawing my conclusions there. So I just wanted to acknowledge that Darius Miles' case is still not yet to be tried. We don't have a date yet. That's probably the next thing in this case. Michael Davis will appeal, and Darius Miles' trial date will be set. And so we'll see. We'll keep following it. My stance continues to just be really sadness over all of this, and disappointment on the way that people have run with narratives over, all Alabama basketball people are bad, the basketball players are mean. I don't really know. I think it was just a tragedy, a really horrible night that ended badly for a lot of parties.
Agreed. I think that's just about everything that could be said about that.
Yeah, I don't want to drag you in there because you weren't wrong on Friday and you didn't talk about it. But if you want to say something, you're welcome to.
No, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Just unfortunate situation in many ways, and just really just a rough chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll keep watching. We'll keep tabs on it. Ryan Phillips has been reporting the absolute mess out of it. And if you need to read or want to read anything about the trial, I would suggest you go to Ryan Phillips' Tuscaloosa Patch and read. You can read about Brandon Miller's testimony, Jaden Bradley's testimony. You can read really about them all. And he interviewed a juror afterwards, and he was able to kind of get a perspective of what they were what they were talking about in the deliberation room. So I wanted to readdress what I got wrong on Friday before it got away from us. We're going to say goodbye to Theo and see him back on Monday We are going to do NCAA regionals this week. Softball, we've got Alabama and Florida. In baseball, we've got Know Thy Enemy, the Florida Gators, on Wednesday. We will probably have Katie Wyndham on Thursday. Gonna have a big week. Theo, anything you want to say before we go?
No, I mean, man, this is a fun week coming up. First of all, Justin Thomas fell just short, which was unfortunate. I was watching it in the sports desk at WVUA. Thought for a good chunk of it that he was going to pull through. It was a gutsy performance. That's how I describe it. I mean, he had a birdie on 17 that was impressive. Kept himself in it, and Sepp Straka just did not make a mistake anywhere. He did not let up. So that was fun. I'm excited to watch the championship this weekend. And I'm also very, very excited to see how it goes on the diamond for our two teams this weekend.
We'll be following it all right here on the Joe Gaither Show. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.